Can you tell us a little bit about the character who's right over your shoulder?
I always feel like this is Mokolohe. And so the name of the book is Pardon My Quirk. And I don't want people to pardon it, but I want people to embrace the fact that we are all weird. And I mean, in the best possible ways. And I wish I had embraced my weird a little bit sooner, because I've spent pretty much the majority of my Air Force career suppressing my weird. So now I've made Mokolohe, who is my quirk. I tell people to name your quirk. And so Mo is short for Mo or more. And Kolohe is Hawaiian for rascal, which I don't know. My mom called me that. I thought it meant beautiful. It doesn't. So it's more rascal is the name of my my mascot. So Mokolohe is the name of my quirk. And that's what I tell people, just name your quirk, own it, embrace it. We're weird, just be it and accept it and acknowledge it and leverage it.
Hey guys, and welcome. I'm Morgan Giss-McDonald, founder, CEO of Paper Raven Books, and I have with us today someone who's releasing the brand new book called Pardon My Quirk, Anecdotes to Make You Laugh, Learn, and Think. We have with us today retired Air Force Colonel and anecdotist Mo Barrett. Mo, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Morgan. This is fun, and I'm sorry in advance.
I've already told you, we're not doing bloopers on this one.
We'll see.
We'll see. So Mo, this is such a fun book because basically what you've taken is your highlight reel of your best stories. You put them all in one collection of stories for us. And you've given us like room to sort of laugh and learn and think, as the subtitle would suggest. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about kind of what can we expect from Pardon My Quirks. What do you have planned for us in this book?
Well, because you said I was an anecdotist, which I am, I'm obviously going to start with a story. So I'm going to tell you about the first time my dad set eyes on my mom, and she was a cashier working in a tool department. And when you ask my dad how my mom and dad met, like he gives this elaborate story and it's so beautiful. And there's blue jays flying around while he's telling the story. And he talks about how it took him a week to get up the nerve to talk to this beautiful woman and ask her out. And then you ask my mom and she's like, oh, well, he came around for like a week. I don't know, didn't say anything, kept buying tools, and finally asked me out. So I went out with him. And it's when I remember hearing that story when I was really, really young. And it's like, the older I got, the more grandiose my dad's story got, and the more bored my mom got with her version. And it made me realize that there is magic in the mundane. There are opportunities in everything that we do to find a story, and that every story has got a different perspective, right? So there's now my perspective, my mom's perspective, my dad's really fantastic perspective. So what I did was, first of all, I opened with that story in the book. But the book is really just about these rather mundane moments in my life, to highlight the fact that there are mundane moments in all of our lives where there are lessons that we can laugh at, there are lessons we can learn, and there are things that we can think about.
So how did you decide what types of stories to include? I mean, if we're talking about mundane moments that could be funny, I mean, what are they all about your parents, or do we have other types of stories too? Because
yes, there are 43 stories about Walter and May Barrett. Yes, enjoy. No, thankfully for these, I love index cards, which is a genetic predisposition I got from my dad, but I love these half index cards. So I literally had like hundreds of these cards out of just some stories don't make like there's some things that are truly just mundane and they don't belong anywhere just other than in your memories. But I really just put note cards out, and I kind of saw what stories I had, what really maybe had some lessons that were relevant beyond just me, or something that makes me laugh, or because it's important to laugh, learn, and think in that order, right? So laughing is most important to me. So if there's no funny in it, I don't want to do with it. But no, they're not all about my parents. There are some about my parents though.
What other kinds of stories are in there? If anyone's like, okay, I like laughing, you kind of got my interest peaked, Mo. I'm a laugher. So what kinds of stories might be in here?
So I really wrote this book for childless lesbians who have unsolicited parenting advice. I mean, that's really what this book is about, because that to me was the proudest moment of my life, when I was walking to a post office and there was a mom and a little girl trying to keep up with her mom walking from the post office. And the mom's like, the little girl's like, I want to hold your hand, Mom, I want to hold your hand. And the mom just rush. And so I was like, you know what? I don't have kids that I know about. And so I'm gonna intervene here. So I turned around and I grabbed the little girl's hand and we started walking. And I said to her, I said, you know, someday your mom is going to be begging you to hold her hand. And I said this, and the little girl, she's like all walking proud and tall like this. And we're walking, by this time we've passed her mom. And the mom looks at me with, you know, like stranger danger eyes, which was warranted. But she kind of like did that resignation sigh of, God, you know. So she puts everything in one hand and grabs her little girl's hand in the other, and the two of them walk off. And I remember standing there thinking, I don't have kids. I don't know what it's like to be in a rush and all the other stuff that's going through that mom's hand, you know, that mom's head. But there was a moment when it's not about me really giving unsolicited parenting advice. I was just giving you a soundbite, although I am a childless lesbian who gave unsolicited parenting advice. But it was about that mom realizing that there was a moment there with an opportunity that she hadn't capitalized on fully. Was, you know, cost her nothing. It really didn't slow her down much to hold her daughter's hand. So that if somebody were ever to ask, and you can, the next question could be, what is the proudest moment of your life? That's it. So there's stories like that are a little bit more weighty than a Sears cashier, but but really that's why I wrote the book, is because I think we can all learn from each other.
Yeah. Well, and what I love is that I mean, you know, you could say that it's for childless lesbians who are giving unsolicited parenting advice.
It's a niche market. I give you that. It's a niche market, but we're trending up in there.
I think what has become most apparent, like most evident to me in reading through your stories, is that you take very specific moments, you pull them out. It's almost like you stop time and really like tell the story. You give the story its moment to really to shine. That sounds a little bit lame, but you know, like to really be seen. And you give us a moment to pause and say, what could that mean for me? Like, yes, that was funny. And because I found myself reacting and laughing, and it just automatically triggers this opening, right? Like the space opens up to say, I wonder if I've ever done anything like that, or if I've seen anything like that, or if that reminds me of anything in my life. And you end all of your stories with at least one question, right? So in this version of the book, there's one question. There are also versions of the book that's intended for an entire book club, right? With multiple questions for people to kind of discuss. How does that work? Like, give us kind of a little bit of insight to your philosophy as an anecdotist. Why the questions?
Because I'm nosy. But first of all, I have to say thank you for reading it, but for just for kind of reflecting that back on me, because I hadn't thought about, people have told me that time stands still when they're with me, but I just thought they were bored. So that's a nice positive way to look at that. So I appreciate that. But you know, that whole magic in the mundane, that's kind of the point of that. And I think the reflective part of it, because anecdotes by definition are something that have some kind of moral or parable. Jesus stole parable, so I didn't want to use that, but and parabolist doesn't sound right. It sounds like a mathematician. But when there's something you can learn from it, it's just that one last trigger, that little parting shot to say, you know, have you thought about this? And what I do like about the book club discussion guide, and my hats off to my best friend Katie, who's also my podcast co-host, who did all the book club discussions, because I am so zoned in on just that one lesson that I forget all these other little tangential things that can make you stop and think. And so I'm actually really excited about the book club discussion guides, because I started reading them and I'd never thought about some of the things that the book club discussion questions brought up. So I'm not sure if I answered the question, but that's kind of the reason for that last parting shot, is just like, hey, here's something just to kind of tinker around in your head for a little bit while you're chewing the rest of it.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of us, we want to know ourselves better. We want to know other people better. And sometimes we just don't know quite what to talk about. You know, once you get past sort of the weather and how's your family and how's work, it's like, well, what's next? You know, I think that a book like this is so approachable. Each of the stories is fairly short, right? I mean, I think you mentioned there are 43. So, you know, they're each a few pages and then the question. And so it's really reasonable that, like, as a family, you know, instead of sitting down to read a like board book with your with your kids, you could read a story with your family, with your friends, with your, if anyone's doing any like, small group meals or whatever. It's like, well, let's take turns, let's read a story, let's ask the question, and that just gives us something to talk about that's going to draw out, parts of each other's lives and that we might not know about. And so
I love that.
I think about.
I love that. Well, and I have to say another thing too, is that I love wordplay and puns and all that kind of stuff. So I have gotten some people email like, was this a typo? I'm like, nope, just keep looking at it, keep reading it. So yeah, there's a lot of wordplay and puns in there too. So for people who are learning to not take things so literally, it's also an educational tool.
That's right. Triggers you just enough.
Just enough.
And this is part of your bigger mission that you're kind of going into in this phase of life, is you were in the Air Force, you're a retired colonel, right? And so you had a whole career, and now you're making a little bit of a pivot into speaking and like, telling stories from stage, from platforms. Can you tell us about this next part of your life? What do you hope that it starts to look like?
Well, I hope it starts to look like live and in person, because the Zoom thing is, the Zoom fatigue is real. But yeah, this is all I want to do, is just go out and talk. Like when I was in the Air Force and you're an officer, you talk and people kind of have to listen because of the rank structure. But now I want to be able to say something that is worth listening to. And I don't like the term motivational speaker, because I don't want to just get on a stage and all that hype and rah, and then you leave kind of going, well, now what do I do? Again, that I want people to laugh, because I think that connects people. I want people to learn something maybe that they didn't know, or whether it doesn't have to be from me, it can be from the other people that are there. But I want them to think about things, just like you talked about, thinking about the mundane moments, thinking about who they are as a person, where they're headed. Like, I couldn't have predicted this. Never in a million years could have predicted this. But I love it, and I love the journey.
That's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about the character who's right over your shoulder?
I always feel like this is Mokolohe. And so the name of the book is Pardon My Quirk. And I don't want people to pardon it, but I want people to embrace the fact that we are all weird. And I mean, in the best possible ways. And I wish I had embraced my weird a little bit sooner, because I've spent pretty much the majority of my Air Force career suppressing my weird. So now I've made Mokolohe, who is my quirk. I tell people to name your quirk. And so Mo is short for Mo, or more. And Kolohe is Hawaiian for rascal, which I don't know. My mom called me that. I thought it meant beautiful. It doesn't. So it's more rascal is the name of my my mascot. So Mokolohe is the name of my quirk. And that's what I tell people, just name your quirk, own it, embrace it. We're weird, just be it and accept it and acknowledge it and leverage it.
I love that so much.
And she just came in patch format yesterday. So,
oh my goodness. Cool. So, okay. So you gave us a little bit behind the scenes with the note cards on writing this kind of book. And people always are wondering, like, okay, how do you take the million different story possibilities and like narrow it down to 43? Like, what was that process like for you of narrowing it down and then writing them?
Yes. So, because we haven't talked about the weather yet, I don't know what the weather's like there in Denver. It's breezy and nice, and it's like perfect here. And it reminds me of when I was sitting in my living room back in the spring, had all the windows open, doors open. I mean, everything was nice, just cool breeze. I'm sitting on my couch, and this huge housefly flies in. And as soon as it got into my house, it wanted out, but couldn't seem to figure out all the openings, hitting the wall, hitting the ceiling, hitting the TV, hitting everything, hitting me. And a couple seconds later, this poof from a dandelion just kind of floated in on the breeze, and it just kind of rode the current. And it was just like wherever the current took it, it just kind of like went there. And even the fly kind of ran into it, and it kind of did its little turbulence. And then it just kind of floated out another complete window. And I'm like, wow, I have too much free time. But I also realized that we are like that fly sometimes, when we are just like banging our heads against the wall, wondering if I'm ever going to narrow down these stories, or am I going to have too much or not enough? And there are times when you're sitting at the keyboard and you are like the poof, and you are the coolest thing on earth, and things are just flowing, and the karma's good, and the breeze is good, and you're just going wherever it takes you. And all of a sudden you've gotten like 43 stories in the order that you want it. that's what my writing process has been like. The fly and the poof. There are moments when it's just chaotic and unorganized and frustrating. And there are times when it is just smooth sailing, and it's pretty much 50-50, but I'm hoping that I can get more of the karma of the poof days when I can just float and just things are smooth.
Yeah. I love that visual.
yeah. Not when there's a fly buzz in your head all the time and you're trying to get it up, but
it's true, because sometimes we have so much almost like nervous, anxious, like I must make this work energy that it kind of works against us, and we're going in a whole bunch of different directions.
Right.
Like, if we can sit and stay and just be and have that vision of like what we're creating and where we're going. And maybe we don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but we kind of trust that there is movement in that way. That's the sweet spot, right? And
for sure.
We're not going to be in that sweet spot all the time, but even to have glimpses of it is like, okay, I can like we can do this, we can get there. So if you guys are watching with us, if you're listening here and you're like, I want more Mo, the good news is that you can get a copy of Mo's book, Pardon My Quirk, for free today. So if you go to paperravenbooks.com/pardonmyquirk, it'll take you straight to Amazon. You'll see right there on that page where you can grab a free copy of the book. So we would encourage you to go ahead and do that now while you are here and thinking about it. Yes.
Yeah, and I'd like to offer just a really special treat. I think between now and the 30th of October, if you go on, we're going to give you 2 books for the price of nothing. So I think today's really the day to do it. So today, 2 ebooks for $0. I think that's, buy one, get one, another one free.
Well, so go do that now.
Yeah. Download, review, share.
Download and review and share. This is the week when Pardon My Quirk is launching. We're getting it out to all sorts of different audiences and reader groups. And so this is part of us wanting to spread the laughing and learning and thinking. You can get 2 copies, so you can share it with a friend or with a partner or with a group. And it would be a great way to kind of reconnect with people, especially after this whole season of being separated. It's like, okay, well, let's come back and let's be really intentional about our groups and our relationships, and let's have fun doing it, right? Like let's open up fun stories and fun conversations. And so go to paperravenbooks.com/pardonmyquirk and get those copies. And I'm wondering, Mo, so like you've been through this whole journey. Well, actually, first I want to ask, when did you think that you were going to write a book? Because I imagine, you were in the Air Force, kind of doing your thing, flying planes, heroic stuff. Like, do you remember?
Is my cape showing? No, I'm just joking.
Do you remember when you decided, I think I might want to write a book someday?
So it actually happened a lot sooner than I thought. When I found the purple dragon photo, and if you want to know what that story is about, you'll have to go to the book and look up purple dragon. But when I found that picture, I also found a spiral notebook that in my 9-year-old handwriting said creative writing journal. And I had a table of contents in there, and I wrote every day, and I had the titles and all of this stuff in there. And I found this when I found that purple dragon picture. And I thought maybe my parents had given me writing assignments, because it was like, if I were 10 feet tall, that was the name of the essay. Like, if I lived in Delaware, and that was, but then I got to one, I'm like, this is when I realized my parents did not give me the writing assignments, because the one was called If I Were a Moron, and What I Think About Terrorism. I'm like, what 9-year-old thinks like this? I don't like weird ones. But I realized that I have been writing for like a long time and just capturing just random thoughts. Again, I would apparently give myself like these little assignments, like if I were a moron, and I was like, I would think I was dumb. I would not be friends with myself. I found this notebook at the same time I found the purple dragon picture, but I was just like, I have been doing this, and I've always been capturing stories. I used to write stories when we were at a cruise in the plane. The approach plates had blank pieces of paper in the back that are about the size of the final product of this book. And I would write stories on the most blank pages, and I would collect them. I never knew what to do with them. So I have been writing and collecting stories. And again, some are, never going to see the light of day, like If I Were a Moron. But I've been writing these things, and I find like, this is a perfect outlet for the thing I've already been doing and the thing I want to be doing, which is speaking, because a lot of these stories are the stories that I use when I'm on stage in front of a group.
Yeah. Perfect. So now you've been through this whole journey. You finally reached a point where it's like, okay, this book is happening. Put all those stories together, some, housefly moments, some dandelion moments, and now it's here and you're holding it in your hands. If you knowing everything you know now, if you could go back to a younger version of yourself, I mean, maybe that's 9-year-old Mo, maybe
it was this morning. Yeah.
Maybe it was this morning. What do you think you would want to know? What would you tell that younger version of yourself?
About the writing process or about just everything?
Just becoming an author. Yeah, just writing a book.
I would think back to the time I was a camp counselor and I had a 10-year-old kid come up and tell me, if I never grow up, I want to be just like you. And for the longest time, I had to debate, was that a compliment or was that, I didn't know how to take it. I've chosen to take it as a positive. And I always think about that when I think a lot of people suppress what's weird about them or what makes them unique. And I think we need to be celebrating that. So I wish I hadn't waited so long to celebrate and name and make an image of my quirk and what makes me weird and unique and in the best possible ways, if I weren't a moron. But I think it's all these things that we go through life and we're trying to fit this mold. And I wish I had realized sooner that we are our own mold. And so we need to go and embrace what it is that makes, because there's only one of us. The world only gets one of us, one of you. And so I want to make sure that we are out there celebrating that. And whether that looks like a podcast or a book or a video or a movie or whatever it is, that we have to make our mark on the world. So I'm excited to do that with Mokolohe here. It's good to have a buddy.
It's good, like a co-pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know who's flying the plane. Somebody better be.
Pretty soon the AI will be flying the plane.
I'm telling you.
Well, thank you, Mo, for coming out and for.
Thank you.
Actually, neither of us had to travel. Thank you.
I know, right? Well, I was in the living room. I had to come in here in the office, so
Thank you for traveling for this interview.
Thank you. Yes.
And you guys, if you want to hear more of these funny stories and have opportunity to laugh and learn and think and share with people, today's your day. Go to paperravenbooks.com/pardonmyquirk. You can grab a copy right now, and we would love for you to let us know what you think of the book. Leave a review, share with us, tag me, tag Mo, and we'd love to hear what you think. Mo, any last words for our readers?
For the readers and for any possible writers, I just want to say thank you so much, Morgan, to your team. You guys have been phenomenal, and I would not have done this without you guys. Honestly, the deadlines and you helping me poof my fly moments and helping me fly my poof moments has been phenomenal, and I would not do it without you, and I could not have done it without you guys. So anybody who wants to write, check out paperraven.com. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Yep, for sure. So I always want to say thank you to your team.
Well, you are so welcome. It's been such a fun journey for us. This is really just the beginning for you. So we hope that this, really launches this next phase of your life. And I cannot wait to see you out on stage, telling stories, making people laugh, getting people together, and really creating a new movement, I think, of relationships and groups and people who we do this together, right? We tell stories because stories are important, and we laugh together, we learn together, we think together. I think it's amazing. So
I love it.
All right, guys, we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.